The Joe Rogan Experience.
What other steps do you think can be taken to sort of alleviate or at least somewhat mitigate this awful crisis?
Well, of course, there's Narcan, and you know what that is. It's the like the miracle opioid overdose reversal drug. It's nasal spray usually. And so if someone has overdosed on opioids, fentanyl, heroin, pills, whatever, if you get these sprays, it will bring them back to life, literally.
Right.
And so, that it's available in some places. Oh, man, I am not smart enough to know that. I do not know how the chemical pathway works.
Narcan. See if we can find out how Narcan works. How does Narcan work? That's amazing, though, that they figured out something that can stop people from
where else,
in the middle of an overdose.
What else do we have that in?
Pulp Fiction. Remember
life?
with the needle to the heart? Remember that? Woo, what a scene.
You know what? I was asking someone about that recently, and that is total bullshit. That is like Quentin Tarantino just making something up. That's not a real thing.
I'm glad he did.
It's a dramatic scene.
It was fucking awesome. Yeah, it was pretty crazy. I mean, if you could shove a fucking needle in the middle of your heart and pump that stuff in, like, whoa, and she pops up to life with a needle out of her chest.
Yeah. That's in real life. It would have been a nasal spray to the nose. Yeah,
but this is 1994. They didn't have that.
They did, yeah. And so nowadays, it's like firefighters, librarians. These are the people who are encountering opioid overdose victims.
They're encountering them in the library.
In the library,
come to the library to do drugs, or firefighters or EMTs react to people that are overdosing, right?
Yeah.
And isn't it the case that some fentanyl overdoses, the people actually have it on their skin? So these people that are helping them, whether they're police officers or first responders.
That's actually another thing that's kind of a Snopes.com thing. They started
fake?
that. Yeah, no, you can't get an overdose by touching fentanyl. It won't go into your skin. If someone there was a mound of fentanyl and someone sneezed and it was in the air, you could get it by breathing in. But by just touching it, no.
Oh, well, that's good to know.
It's the best
Narcan reversing an overdose. It says Narcan has a strong affinity to the opiate receptors, a stronger affinity to the opiate receptors than opioids like heroin or Percocet. So it knocks the opioids off the receptors for a short time. This allows the person to breathe again and reverses the overdose. Holy shit.
That's amazing. That person needs a Nobel Prize.
Yeah.
Whoever came up with that.
They need the exact opposite as the guy who sold the drugs to Prince.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They need love and respect. Yeah, that's an amazing discovery. So that's good to know, because we've actually, I think we probably repeated that. Someone told me that. Did I ever repeat that on the show? That people have to wear drugs or gloves when they're handling people with drug overdoses?
I don't know.
No, probably not. I probably saved that
have
gem.
Have you ever heard of car fentanyl?
What is that?
It's 100 times stronger than fentanyl.
Oh, I
it's
have
an
heard
analog.
that recently.
It's used as like an elephant tranquilizer. Ugh. And so in one of the Jurassic Park movies, that's what they use to tranquilize the dinosaurs.
Oh, yeah. That's right.
And so I interviewed a bunch of dark web dealers for the book. I even actually met one in person.
What do you look like?
Well, he asked me not to say, but he came with his daughter. He was like a buff dude. He was like in his 30s.
Too much. You're already saying too much. We're going to find him now. like when you were recording, what is that orange vat of, did you do that kind of same shit when you're talking to him?
No, because he knew I was a journalist. I told him I was, and he wanted to say, he's like, people think of us as scum, but I want to tell my story, and that's what journalists live on.
Right. What is his story?
Well, he was he's probably listening to this, man.
Hey, bro.
That's crazy.
What's up, dark web drug dealer?
Total family man with his daughter. He was feeding her French fries and stuff. But he was addicted to meth at one point. He had a lot of sort of depression, self-esteem issues. But then he tried the opioids, and he said it was like an antidepressant. So he became hooked. And so he started selling fentanyl on the dark web because he didn't want his kids to have to live in poverty. He didn't want his drug addiction to interfere. And so not only that, but he claims that he's helping addicted users more affordably maintain their habits. So he has this big fuck, Purdue Pharma, anti-government, anti-big pharma mentality. So he blames Purdue Pharma made OxyContin pills, and that's how the whole opioid epidemic began. So it was the pills, then people switched to heroin, and now it's fentanyl is in all the heroin. And so this guy says that because he makes a nasal spray too, and he says that people can buy his fentanyl nasal spray on the dark web for like $60. Take one spray, it's equivalent to one OxyContin pill, and that's enough to maintain their addiction. And so he says, instead of paying money to the big pharmaceutical companies, people buy this, it's much cheaper. And so he had a whole moral justification of how he did it.
So he's an ethical drug pusher.
That was his case. The problem is that this stuff, fentanyl, is so potent, and to make it into a nasal spray, you have to use this whole thing. It's called volumetric dosing with the water, and you got to get the exact right proportions. And he's not a trained pharmacist.
Right.
So
he's buying it. He's a middleman.
No. He does it. He has a whole process how he does it.
Christ.
Yeah. But he's not a trained pharmacist. He doesn't,
How does he know he's doing it right?
And so I told him that. I said that to him, and he's like, well, basically, I tested on myself. So if I'm doing it wrong, I would die. So my customers, therefore, know I've tried it. So
that guy sounds like he's got a great pitch, but I'm not sure.
Yeah. I mean, you got to justify.
Yeah, I get it, but so many people who sell drugs and so many people who are involved in drugs, they're always people who have fucked up lives like to paint the best version of what they're doing.
Yeah.
That's what that sounds like.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if you're selling fentanyl, someone's probably died because of what you sold them. I mean, it's one of those things where it's so deadly.